Hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the musicians and artists that I visit with, please be sure and hit the subscribe button and also the like button. Jesse Sublett is an American musician, writer, and visual artist. Jesse may be best known as the frontman for Austin-based punk new wave band, the Skunks. The band formed in 1977 and released a couple of studio albums and one live album during the 1980s. At the advent of the new millennium, the live album Earthquake Shake was released, originally recorded back in 1980. The band opened for bands like The Clash, the Ramones, and The Police. Jesse himself has played with artists such as Mick Taylor, Ian McLagan, keyboardist for the Small Faces and Faces, and Kathy Valentine, bassist in the Go-Go's. Jesse has written for the New York Times, Texas Monthly, and the Austin Chronicle. He has also had several books published, including his memoir, Never the Same Again. Never the Same Again. As an artist, Mr. Sublett has painted countless pictures of wildlife, mainly birds, juxtaposed against the backdrop of the modern urban world. Well, welcome, Jesse.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here and taking time out to visit. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Johnson City. Grew up in Johnson City, Texas. I was born in Fredericksburg, a little deeper in the hill country. And my mother's family was from that area, Fredericksburg and Stonewall, and German immigrants.
Okay.
My dad was he grew up in Henley and Blanco, and so my roots were pretty rural. So
Yeah, you're that German settlements down there and down into San Antonio too. They have quite a German.
yeah, my great grandfather Caspar Dance emigrated in 1845.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, he was part of that first wave of German settlers who settled Fredericksburg, and then right after the Civil War, he had a homestead, pretty big stretch of land in what became Stonewall, and so the property that where he had his log cabin, and then he subdivided to another homesteader, and then they another one is now in the LBJ State Park, which is across the river from
Is that right?
ranch itself. And so his log cabin there is still preserved, and so is the first one that he's sold to, and the Pioneer Farm uh, that they still maintain there, and what was a country school where Lyndon uh, attended his first semester of school with my grandmother.
Is that right?
Yeah, and she claimed that he cried an awful lot until unless the teacher held him on her lap, and anyway.
That's another story.
Yeah.
That's just, I love history. I do. I love history
Oh,
and
yeah.
heritage. My mother's side is German on
Yeah.
my family. So yeah, we have some of that. Altizer is her maiden name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So very very German. Well, do you recall early childhood growing up? Was there music in the household?
You know, my parents didn't have a record player until I think I was probably 12 or 13 until we had a crank Victrola.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, and we had that thing for a long time. I remember when Cream's triple album Wheels of Fire came out. I my you know my first, I don't know, 6 months or a year of that, I listened on that thing.
On that thing, yeah.
Yeah. But so they weren't big music people. They had gone to country dances and stuff when they were younger. Um, and they like music at the rodeo, but the kitchen radio was the source of the music in the house. Uh, and it was always tuned to KNAF in Fredericksburg, which is now a vaunted, Americana station.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was always hillbilly and hardcore country and the farm and market report and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very, very country. Yeah.
Very country. Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad had a hi-fi and he used to have those 78s and,
Uh,
play those on there and you could stack like two or three on top of each other, and
yeah.
play them all. Yeah, I remember those days.
10
Well,
pound vinyl.
yeah, right, right. Yeah. Well, was the bass guitar the first musical instrument you learned to play?
Well, sort of, because when I was 13, I bought an acoustic Silvertone and took a few lessons, learned a few chords. Uh, didn't get real far on it. Then I got uh, an electric Silvertone for 48 bucks. It came with it was what do they call that color? It's like an aqua green, coral green, I guess.
Oh, cool.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so uh and it came with a vinyl carrying bag. It was the kind that was made by Kay. Uh later there later or before yeah, later they were made by Dan Electro. Uh or earlier. I don't remember. That year they were made by Kay. And they're kind of valuable now. I had it for a long time. Uh anyway, I didn't and then my brother was kind of an electronics ham radio guy. He was 3 years older than me. And he got a kit from Popular Mechanics and made me his fuzz box for $5. And my first amp was a Heath kit. It was probably about as big as this MacBook. Uh, and he put that together too. And then I got another one that was a little bit bigger. And I learned a few things. I was not very good. And then a friend of his best friend, uh, had a violin-shaped bass that I think he bought at Radio Shack,
Okay.
something like that. And he liked my guitar and he offered to trade me for that and my guitar and $15. I got paid.
15
Yeah,
bucks.
yeah. And so my amp, I don't remember where I found it, but it was one of those Silvertone double had two 12-inch speakers and a piggyback head that hideaway in the back. And that was my amp. And I wish I still had that, those are very,
Oh,
very covetable. Yeah.
oh,
Uh, the way I learned really was at that time, uh, jamming was really coming into fashion. And so like Cream's live records, they went on for like 10 minutes on Spoonful and Crossroads. And also Canned Heat would do this endless boogie stuff. So that repetition, I was able to kind of follow that and pick off licks that way. And so I learned more of that from that than from actually sitting down with records and stuff because my ear was not good because like I said, we had that big trouble and like my sense of pitch was, I didn't have one because you just guess at what the speed of the record is.
yeah.
So, and we didn't have a piano or anything or piano lessons. So it took me a really long time to get, kind of proficient. So
Proficient. Yeah.
even playing a garage band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can you recall one of the first 45s or albums that you got?
Yeah. The first 45 we got was uh the Frito Twist, which
Oh, yes.
Frito labels or something.
Yeah.
And so I want to say like the Frito Bandito was on one side or something. I don't remember for sure. That was
Yeah.
my first 45. And I got a I hate to say it, but the Ballad of the Green Berets. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Right.
Yeah. My first LP. So I bought a bunch of singles. I bought a lot of singles, and it's kind of interesting that I bought nearly all of them There was a variety department store here in Austin called GC Murphy, and they had good stuff,
Yeah.
singles and albums. But in Fredericksburg, the appliance store, ITZ's, ITZ, it's like X Appliances, I guess it was called. You would go there and buy your washer and dryer or whatever.
Right.
They had a wall of 45s.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bought, I remember Balloon Farms,
Oh, no
question
sense of
pictures.
question of temperature. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
pictures of Matchstick Man, whoever did that.
Oh,
And
status quo, status quo.
yeah,
Yeah.
lots
Oh,
of psychedelic stuff I bought there.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
1910 Fruit Gum Company and
Yeah.
Ohio Express. I like bubble gum.
Yeah.
Oh, but I liked that kind of stuff. And my first band I really latched onto was Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Okay.
And then but as soon as the Stones came on, Ed Sullivan with Let It Bleed, and Keith had his rooster haircut, clear
Yes.
guitar. That
Yeah.
was it for me. There was it
You
really turned a switch.
you were hooked. You were hooked. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, I want to be that.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, your first one is always your first album or 45 is cringeworthy.
Yeah, oh yeah,
For me, because you're younger,
yeah.
there's a few years difference here, but I was in Tyler, Texas, in the mid to late 60s. And we'd go to the Kmart, and that's where they had the records. But do you remember the Royal Guardsmen, the
Oh
Snoopy
yeah,
albums? Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Snoopy versus Red Baron.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah,
yeah, and Snoopy for President. Those were my first two
yeah.
that I got. Yeah.
That was the beginning of my art career. Because I was always doodling and drawing stuff, and I had a good friend who was a really talented uh, artist, and so we would draw cartoons like Snoopy versus the Red Baron, and we'd invent stories and maybe uh, he would be the Red Baron and I would be Snoopy and I'd shoot him down or vice versa, and then we would then invent our own superheroes
Yeah.
and battle each other. It was
Yeah.
the first rock album that there was the Green Berets, and then the next actual LP I bought was question mark 96 Tears.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was a step up.
Yeah, that was definitely a step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, can you recall one of the first live shows that you attended? That you
Well, yeah. I think the first rock band I saw was the Crossfires, which was a very young uh, group of teenagers from Fredericksburg who actually got a contract with Capitol Records,
Oh,
and they put out, I think at least two singles, and then I don't know what went wrong after that, but they played in the high school gym, and I was blown away. It was really uh, enveloping, uh, really spellbinding. And in retrospect, later I realized that the acoustics were so bad that it made it it just made the music much more than it really was, you know. But that was really exciting. And then uh, these guys, my brothers, like I said, my brother is 3 years older, and so uh, all of his friends had a band called the Vibrations, and they played a few times. And one day I remember very clearly, it was a Saturday afternoon, and I was getting on my Stingray bike, and I heard this music, it was all that mid 60s garage classics, 96 Tears, uh, uh, Here Comes the Night, Louie Louie, all that stuff. And they were playing in the city park. And
yeah,
so I rode my bike down there, and I found this like the Pied Piper. It was
yeah,
really,
right.
really exciting. So that was another thing that hooked me. And
Yeah.
then a weird thing happened like the following year. those same guys. There was a teacher came to town named excuse me, Jimmy Starrock, and he came from Louisiana. I'm pretty sure it was he was from New Orleans, and he was a hip guy. You know, he had a cool haircut, and he taught like typing and accounting and stuff. And he became the singer in their band, and they ripped it up into like a soul band.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, and they performed under the name Dwayne Yates and the Soul Counts, and he would do the James Brown knee drops and all that stuff. It
Yeah.
was wild, and uh, uh, I think he was only there for like a year because like he would take those guys to Austin to the strip clubs and stuff like that, kinds of stuff that was not
He's
cool
a
with
he's a
the
teacher and he's taking a
yeah.
piss.
Yeah, it was really unusual, and you know, when you're in a small town, things like that happen. It's just
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, let me ask you, do you know Ty Grimes? Do you know Ty?
that name
He's a
sounds a little familiar.
he's a drummer. He's there in Austin.
Yeah,
He played with for a while Rick Nelson's Stone Canyon Band.
really.
Going back, he was almost the drummer uh, for Bobby Fuller.
Oh,
Almost.
wow,
His older brother was the drummer. So yeah, that was it. I talked to him not long ago. Yeah.
that's
Yes.
very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How about John Congos? You know John Congos? That
Uh,
doesn't ring a bell either.
no,
He's
uh,
he was a South African that moved to England, recorded some material there, late 60s, early 70s. He's in Austin too. He's there.
really?
So there's a lot of musicians have migrated or immigrated to Austin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, going back here to what I have some questions. What were some you mentioned some early influences, some bands, but do you have any others that you could think of?
Well, things that really uh, got me started were I listened to a lot of blues when I was in high school. John Lee Hooker and people like that were on the those strange radio stations that you get at night from Mexico or wherever, or like what Carol D in Dallas, is that what it was? They had a very powerful station,
Yeah.
so I love that stuff. Uh, and then so I was a big Stones fanatic uh, when I graduated high school, and I got in with this group of guys pretty quickly who were into art rock, and they turned me on to Roxy music, and I really started listening to Velvet Underground and Bowie and all that stuff, all that glam rock stuff, and New York Dolls, and that just I sort of reinvented myself as this glam rock character, and that doomed my college career.
Did it?
After 2 years, I just had to move to Austin and pursue
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I saw concerts were back then were Led Zeppelin and gosh, Jethro Tull seemed to play here a lot, and so did Iron Butterfly. I saw them more times than I should admit. And yeah, I saw Zeppelin several times, and that was very exciting. Uh, I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, well, a lot of the big bands would skip over Dallas and they go to Austin because you've always been such a music city. And
Yeah.
I've talked to several UK bands that, did you play Dallas back in the day? No, but we played Austin.
Uh,
So,
yeah. Well, I should have mentioned uh, Vulcan Gas Company. I got to go there a number of times when I was very young. Uh, and, they were only open from 67 to 70. Uh, and so that was a pretty wild scene. And, I saw a number of uh, good blues uh, artists there and a few of the Austin sort of psychedelic type bands that were around.
Yeah. Well, were you in a band prior to the Skunks?
Well, yeah. In high school, I kept trying to start a garage band, and we played, and we would play at my friend's house, and he had a swimming pool, and people would come over to swim, and then leave when we started playing. Kind
Yeah,
of thing. So
right.
it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was getting our feet wet, and then I was trying to start a band in college, and that never quite gelled. We played a few gigs, actually, uh, in Johnson City, because we could get like at the fairground and stuff, and at this roadhouse. It's hard to believe. We're playing New York Dolls at this, you know, really forlorn country roadhouse. I don't know how we survived, but uh, and then my last year in college, I was in a band called Nasty Habits, and we played Universal City, which is a suburb of San Antonio, and Austin and San Antonio, uh, and that's probably about uh, wait, uh, yeah. Yeah, maybe we played San Angelo. Uh, yeah, we played San Angelo and stuff like that. And I did that for a while, and we did a demo out at the Sono Beat studio, the historic place out at what was it, Leander
Oh, yeah.
studio.
Yes. Right.
So that was I got in there and I didn't really know that was where Johnny Winter had recorded his stuff. Well, he recorded with Bill Josie, and these other records on the wall, and I was like, wow, this is pretty impressive. But the recording didn't turn out too well, so I left that band and started trying to get something going again with some of the same guys I've been playing with in college, and uh, ended up meeting Eddie Munoz, a guitar player, who was, we have a whole lot in common. That we're in the glam rock thing, we're Stones fanatics. And by that time, I was a little bit more proficient in playing. And uh, we ended up joining this band called Jelly Roll. It had existed for a few years before, but broke up. And the singer wanted to, get it going again. So we reinvented this band, and it was a Rolling Stones glam rock blues band, and we played a lot, Austin and uh, Dallas, Fort Worth, and um, I don't know, various places, and then it kind of fell apart, and that was in '77. We're at loose ends, and that's when I joined the Violators, and we started the Skunks during the Violators rehearsal sessions. So that
Okay.
was the start of all that stuff.
Who else was in the original Skunks
Yeah,
besides Eddie and you?
uh, Billy Blackman was the drummer, and he had been in some bands before, and he was professional. And at the time that we got together, he was managing Slotsky's sandwich shop
Oh,
in
okay.
South Congress by the
Yeah.
Continental Club.
Yeah.
So Eddie and I went by there uh, during his shift to talk to him about it, and he gave us sandwiches and talked us into starting this musical experience with.
Fringe benefits, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And Schlotsky's began in Austin, didn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. I thought so. I thought so. I went to college with the girl whose family started that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that at the time.
At
Wow.
one time, it seemed like everybody I knew was working there.
Yeah. Isn't that
They didn't
something?
get a job there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, how did you guys get the gig at Raoul's in '78?
Well, the it was really weird because not really weird. It was just one of those things. That location had been a bar for a long time. Uh, Back in the early '60s, it was Roy's Lounge, which was run by uh, or I don't know what kind of adjective to give the guy, but his name was Roy. Uh, I forgot his last name. It doesn't matter. But it became an issue because he would not allow black people in there in the in 1963. And at that time, the student, civil rights activists and African Americans were boycotting movie theaters there. They were doing it was a version of the sit-in uh, and protesting them to get them to integrate. And during the process of that, one of them tried to enter Roy's with a black student, and he wouldn't let him in. So they started sit-in there also. So it was in the paper a lot. So it's just ironic that this place called Roy's Lounge had that reputation then, and then Roy Gomez took over the place uh, years later, and it became a punk bar, which was very welcoming. Everyone was welcome there. So, and there were a number of joints in between. The iteration that we knew that we were familiar with was called Gemini's, and uh, they had a pretty open booking policy. They would have heavy metal one night, reggae the next, country music. And so uh, we had played there, Jelly Roll had played there. And so we were comfortable with that place. And we thought, when we started the Skunks and the Violers, we thought, hey, we'll play there. And then suddenly we realized it's it's in transition.
Yeah.
And so some other bands that we knew played there. Project Terror was a kind of a weird. They weren't new wave or anything, but they were not conventional top 40 either. They were played Frank Zappa, Stones, Hendrix,
Yeah.
So they were kind of odd, and so uh, we figured we could get a gig there. So, well, I went down there with uh, Kathy Valentine and Marilyn Dean, who was the drummer. I think Carla Olson, who was the other guitar player, I think she was probably working. She had a job. She was the travel agent at that time still. And so we went down there and gave them a cassette of our rehearsal, and we got a gig.
Yeah.
And so, and the timing was amazing because the Sex Pistols played San Antonio, and then like 5 days later, our gig
Yeah.
was booked, and we went in there, and all these people who had heard about the Pistols and missed it, and or people who went, it was like really stoked the fires around here for punk rock, and so there's a lot of curiosity and there's tons of energy. It was just so interesting. You go on stage and already people are excited, and you play the first chords and people start throwing stuff and yelling, and there's all
Yeah.
this, the air
Yeah.
was supercharged.
Yeah.
And so
They-
it's very odd because I knew that I'd seen the Pistols get stuff thrown at them and spit on, and
yeah.
I've seen
That's
it on
spitting.
TV, so it shouldn't
Yeah.
have been a surprise. But when they did it to me, I was like, "What the fuck?" You know?
Yeah.
And so you snarl back at the crowd, and it just energizes them more. And like
Yeah.
it was, in a way, it was too easy, it was to get something going because people were so ready for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm just so thankful for us, the timing
The
to
timing, I was
out
going to
like
say,
that.
that was so, interesting. You had the experience with the spitting. I was going to ask you about that.
And it didn't happen much. It
Yeah.
was actually kind of rare, and like even the throwing stuff that died down pretty
Yeah.
quickly, thank goodness, because
Yeah.
like especially because one of our uh, uh, early shows, the Violators opened for this guitar guy named Nitzinger, and he had a heavy drinking, rowdy crowd, and
Yeah.
we should not have been booked on that show. We played in this big ballroom in New Braunfels, and we came out, and they just hated us so much. They threw bottles and stuff, and they weren't
Oh,
because it was a punk rock thing. They wanted to kill us.
they really did want to. Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
They wanted to
and
hurt you.
that was exciting too. We didn't get hurt,
Yeah.
we egged them on,
You egged them on. Well,
Yeah,
the show at Raoul's has been remembered as changing the face of music in Austin. Yeah.
it really did. I mean, I'm
Really.
really proud of that. How many people came to the first one? Maybe 50, maybe 60 or 75. Not many people, but man, it just built after
Yeah.
that. And even when there weren't a lot of people there, there was people who were talking about it. Um, and uh, yeah, and it was interesting because people didn't, there's not really a sophisticated vocabulary for that kind of music. And so the, you like to keep you might like to keep your press clippings, but uh, when I read back at them, they're mostly pretty dumb. Where's the new wave headed next? They're riding the new wave. Uh, they say
Yeah.
they're not punk, they're a new wave, and like what? You know,
Yeah. Right. You're right. Some of
there's
those are
no depth there at all.
early press. Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Well, uh, where did you guys record? What studio did you?
Well, the the Violators did a demo, but I can't remember where, and it didn't turn out very well, so that doesn't count. Uh, and the Skunks did an early demo somewhere that I forgot, and that was not great. And then so just okay, our first gigs were in January, and by April, uh, these guys showed up at Raoul's and said, "Hey, you want to do some? What you guys want to record?" And we said, "Yeah, sure." And it was Joe Gracie, who was a progressive country character and a songwriter, musician, DJ, and journalist, and his sidekick Bobby Earl Smith, who had been in one of the seminal progressive country bands, Frida and the Fire Dogs, here in Austin. And we had heard the records they had done, one with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I think they had recorded the Thunderbirds also singles, and they sounded great. They were just really perfect for that kind of music, and so we were receptive to this invitation. And so Joe's studio was in the basement of the building where KOKE FM was located. And it was a funky little studio. I think it was 8 track. And we went in there I think the night after they saw us and cut some tracks and had a great time. And we kept going back and doing more. And they said, "Hey, let's do a single." And said, "Yeah, let's do a single." We kept recording it. Let's make it an EP. And okay, let's make it an EP. And then an album. And so had an album's worth of stuff. And all that was within the first year. And we thought it was going to come out soon. And there was some delays. And our manager had a talk with them. And they said they didn't have quite enough money for the pressing. And he gave them a bunch of money for the pressing, and then we didn't hear from them for a while, and we got very disenchanted, and they got disenchanted also because by the end of that year, 78, Eddie had decided to move to Los Angeles, and so he left the band. I wanted to stay here. I thought things were going great uh, here in Austin. I had originally planned to move to Los Angeles with him and the girls. We're all moving to LA. We didn't, before we started the band, bands, we didn't see any future in Austin. Nothing was happening. The old scene that we loved here with the bands like the glam bands like Cracker Jack and the band King of Hearts. That's another story. The Werewolves, all that was gone. So the singer-songwriters and progressive country and blues, we love the blues, but the other stuff not so much, and had taken over. So, and used up all the oxygen around here. But so, then the Skunks started happening. We had our scene and we're playing all the time. And I thought, well, I'll just stay here. But Eddie left, and I didn't have a guitar player for a couple of months till I met John D. Graham and early the following year, and the band was more popular than ever. Uh, and I kind of lost the thread of what we were talking about. Uh, well,
Oh,
that album, that
yeah,
album. But
yeah.
fast forward to 1981, we had put out our own single and an EP, and there was a live album coming out with a couple of tracks, and then Bobby and Joe just dropped this album off at I think at Schlotsky's because Billy was
Okay.
and we said, "Wow, what the hell is this about?" We'd forgotten all about this, and well, our sound had changed, and we were so annoyed with those guys. We fought to repress as in squelch
Do
that. And I talked to all the record stores and radio stations and said, don't play it or don't sell it, don't promote it. It's a bootleg, which it wasn't, but and everybody cooperated. So it uh, became a collector's item naturally. There's uh, a copy at a vinyl shop on East Six, and it's water damaged and everything, and they're asking $150 for it. So
really,
yeah,
really, yeah.
but so that's that thread of things. And our first single we recorded in the summer of '78 in a garage on a two-track machine. I got and it was all out of spite. I went by Bobby and Joe's office. I said, uh, I I asked to borrow the logo so I could make t-shirts. And they were like, "Oh man," they were so laid back. They blew me off, and I was so mad. I go, "Fuck those
Right.
guys. We're gonna make our own record," and we did. We did that weekend, and uh, we sold out of our first pressing the following week. Yeah, when the week it came out, and
Yeah,
it was great.
yeah. So that was the Black Album.
Yeah, that
Yeah, the
was.
first one. That's the thing you said. It in the history of music, like you said, if it takes too long for an album to be released, maybe recorded a year or two before, like you said, the band's moved on, their sound has changed, and things like that. So it's hard to, you know, kind of recapture that, or you really don't want to recapture that sound.
Yeah, it's funny, and then like time goes by, and it might seem cool because the context is totally different.
Yeah,
Like I like listening to that album now,
yeah,
but at the time I didn't.
yeah,
But now it's kind of cool. Uh,
yeah.
it's very, it's got these retro aspects to it.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Well, you mentioned Eddie. He would join the Plimsouls in LA.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Eddie, uh, he was kind of at loose ends when he hit LA. He did have a gig. Working with Elvis Costello as a guitar tech. Uh, but then at that time, uh, actually, yeah, his ex-girlfriend, Carla Olson, helped him get together with the guys who were starting the Plimsouls, and they were really hot for a while.
yeah, really
And then
well.
he played with a lot of other people. He was a big part of that scene, LA scene out there.
Yeah. Well,
Tremendous
John,
guitar player.
yes, John D. Replaced Eddie, but he wouldn't be around for too long because in the summer of '80, Doug Murray replaced John D. Yeah. Where did Doug? What had he done previously? Where did Doug come from?
All right. Yeah, and like, let me just say that, like, at that time, a year was a long time, you know. So like, we had our experiences were so dense and so intense that like a year in that scene with that band was a lot. That we played all over the place and played New York and everything. But uh, Doug had been the guitar player in Terminal Mind with his twin brother,
Okay.
Greg, on drums, and Steve Marsh on bass and vocals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Terminal Mind. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
they
That's
were they were really good. They had really good songs, and they were high concept. I should have paid more attention to that kind of thing uh, when I was doing it. In retrospect, I look at what they were doing, and it was really smart. The songs really fit with the mood of the time, and they were really good songs. Uh, and yeah,
yeah. Well, you that lineup of you, Doug, and Greg would last up until about '83. I think it's
yeah,
1983. Okay. Um, now the second album, this is where I come in. This is when I first picked up on you guys, aka the Purple album, came out in '82 on Republic, and I still have my copy here. Show you. Blast from the Past.
yeah. There it is.
There we
Yeah,
go. There it is. And there's that logo, the Skunks.
yep,
Nothing there. And here's the back side of it, just to show that. Get a
yeah.
good picture of that there. Where is that? Take
That's uh the old tech stop building across from the Capitol grounds. Uh,
okay.
yeah, it's pretty. I don't even notice it anymore. It's got to still be there. But yeah, I was heavy into Art Deco at that time, and so I was excited to do the photo shoot up there with those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Now I have to tell you my favorite track off of this album is Quiet Girl.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
I, I
yeah,
like that one. I've always liked it ever since I heard it off of this. Um,
yeah. That's a well put together song. It's about a girl uh that Doug was sweet on, who you know he couldn't quite get there with her. Funnily enough, right behind me,
yeah.
uh, where the arrow is pointing on that painting,
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
in those boxes are all the tapes for that album.
Are
Uh,
they? Okay.
the multi-track and safety copies, and like 5 or 6 outtakes that didn't make it. And uh, I've only had that a couple of weeks. I got a Facebook message from a guy who sells vintage furniture, and uh, he had this warehouse, and then he inherited these
Yeah.
tapes and said, "Hey, Jesse, you're having an interest in these?" And I said, "I guess so." So if they're any good, I don't even know. I mean, it
Yeah.
could have gotten overheated and ruined
Oh,
it.
I hope not. If they're still good, have you been approached by anybody to do any remastering or anything like that?
Uh, if I haven't, it hasn't been lately, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know who I would, I don't want to pay for it myself, but
Right. Right.
somebody out there wants to,
Yeah.
inquire
There-
about it all.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of labels out there, and I think they're growing every day that like to release or re-release, remaster a lot of these older gems, or
Yeah.
and on a I run across them just by doing these interviews. I hear about them, and a lot of them do really good work. So
Well,
yeah,
to-
might keep the door open.
yeah, sure.
As they
Yeah, I'm
say.
not opposed to it. I
Yeah,
just don't want to pay for it myself.
right, right, right. Maybe somebody will even watch this chat we're having.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I do hope they're in good shape. I hope they're in good shape. Yeah. Well, uh, why did the band break up? That's
You
it.
know, the, it was a combination of things. Uh, at that time, my taste had changed. So I mean, the band had, it worked in that we would play some of our more punk rock songs like "Give Me Some" and "Tell a Woman," and that was fun. But we also always had to play "Cheap Girl," which eventually I realized was, not a very, polite song to be playing, and but people would just demand it, so you just go, okay, we'll do it, and maybe slur the words, or and so uh that was a problem. And then the- Doug and Greg and I, when at first, Doug joined the band first, and that was okay. We didn't have any trouble, and then everybody got along, agreed on stuff is what I mean, and then when Greg joined the band, uh, I still, things went my way because they fought about everything. So I always had at least one vote in a three-way vote, I would win. So that was
Yeah.
fine. But then they started kind of ganging up on me. They wanted to do more harmonies and more melodic stuff. And they bugged me about my singing until I kind of lost my voice, and that really ticked me off. Uh, and I was uh, I was moving toward more like Roxy music type thing. I just really kind of fantasized about being in that kind of a band and being just the front man, the Brian Ferry character. And so I just decided, okay, I need a change, and you know, stop the band. And so that was very energizing uh, at that time. And it was great to do a last blast of shows. Uh, and the last one we did in Dallas, we opened for Joe Ely at a club in Greenville Avenue.
Yeah.
And on the way back, um, uh, just this side of Waco, um, I hit a patch of ice, and everybody in the van had gone to sleep, uh, and I hit a patch of ice. I tapped the brakes, and it just flipped right over
Mm.
and jumped the median, and I was going upside down the wrong way on I-35 with the windshield blown out, and gripping the steering wheel, pumping the brakes, and the van upside down. You know. Anyway,
You
so
can laugh about it now. You can laugh about it now.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I killed the band. Shit. But but I swear when it stopped moving, I looked around and they were just waking up. They were like, oh. So they weren't scared at all. Uh,
Good, they were
so
sleeping. Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
it. But uh, so I started a band called Jesse Sublett Secret Six, and we did new material and some of the newer material that I'd written, but in a more glamorous Roxy music style with synthesizers and a lot of effects and crooning and stuff, and that was really energizing and fun for a while, but it wasn't very well supported. Austin wasn't ready for it, and it just didn't. It wasn't a big hit. So I did that for a couple of years, and we did have an option with Elektra. We were on a compilation, and we really thought that was going to get picked up. But ironically, or maybe it's not ironic, it's the way those things happen. Tom Zutaut, who was our guy at Elektra, he was in the process of moving to what was it, MCA, the band. He was getting involved with Guns N' Roses. So, he really he really didn't have time for a little synth pop band from Austin.
No, no.
But he took our meeting when we went out there. Lois and I went out there on a trip, and that's when I really fell in love with LA. I played out there and I liked it, but that's when I started thinking, oh, this is where I need to go. So after playing around here for a while and a couple other short-lived outfits, we moved out there so I could be a writer. But as soon as made that decision, Kathy Valentine called and said, "Hey, if you're moving out here, let's start a band." Because the Go-Go's were on hiatus; they had broken up at that point. And I said, "Sure." And so we started rehearsing and writing songs together even before I officially moved out there. And so we had a band, and we had a lot of fun for a year and a half or two, something like that. We played a lot, and did demos with Mike Chapman of Blondie
Yeah, yeah.
fame, yeah, and they were pretty good, but they didn't get picked up, and so after that, I left that band, and I played with Carla Olson, who had started a new band with Mick Taylor of the Rolling Stones, and that was really exciting because she's a phenomenal musician and a great singer, and her longtime uh, sidekick, George Callan's also a really good guitar player. She had a really, really good drummer and sax player. And with Mick Taylor, we would go out with Ian McLagan on one side playing keyboards, and Barry Goldberg, who played with Bob Dylan, on the other. And wow,
Yeah,
that was a hell of a band.
right.
And we some of the time we were 10 pieces. We had an extra backup singer and oh yeah, Joe Sublett would play sax also. So hell of a band. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, it's interesting how these musicians will again move to Austin, like Ian McLagan. I remember when I
Yeah.
first found out that when did he pass? He passed a few years
Gosh,
ago. Yeah, it's been a few years.
it's been
So,
years now. I mean, I'm not,
yeah.
I don't want to say because I know it won't be long enough. I think it's longer than it feels like.
And I know Paul Simon has a house down there too.
Uh,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
I
So
think they live in Wimberley.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and Edie. That's a strange pairing to me. I would have never guessed Edie Brickell and
Yeah.
Paul Simon. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's strange.
And
What?
there's all kinds of people here that you don't even know are here.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
don't advertise. That,
They don't. Exactly.
yeah.
Well, the Skunks. Back to the Skunks. You guys would be inducted into the Austin Music Hall of Fame in 2008.
Yeah.
So that's a little
Finally.
feather in your cap. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Exactly.
John D and I will play, I don't know, once a year or once every couple of years, we'll do the Skunks
Yeah.
show. And it's just it's really great because we meant a whole lot to a lot of people uh, years ago, and uh, that emotion is still there, and it's a neat gift
Yeah.
that music can give
Yeah.
to you.
Do you still meet a lot of the old fans at these shows?
Oh yeah, I see. A lot of my friends are still around, and there are people who you know that I don't recognize who come up to me and say, "Gosh, big fan," and shucks, it's nice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talk about some of your writing. You had articles published in the New York Times and Texas Monthly.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned I had some books published. Actually, believe it or not, 16.
16.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And some of them I co-wrote with people. Uh, so they don't always get counted. But yeah, I started out writing for the Chronicle, and I had become a hard-boiled detective novel fanatic, and I was already thinking in that style when I started writing music reviews and restaurant reviews for them, and then uh, uh, I wrote up. They asked me to do a story about the places that the my band played on the road, for a typical idea of where Austin working bands played out there and what it was like. And so I started thinking about that, and I just turned it into a semi a detective story featuring a bass player played in a blues band, and the I listed all these places that he went out on the road and had gigs, and all that was real. I described these venues in a truthful way, but it was all wrapped up in a little detective story. And
What's the detective? What's the bass player's name?
Martin Fender,
Yeah, I like
of
that.
course, he played a Fender Precision. So yeah, and so that got me started. I kind of did it just to prove I could do it, and then the editor and also the editor of the Chronicle, Lewis Black, and also Ed Ward, who was a famous music journalist and author here, were they they were very impressed. They really encouraged me. They said, "Hey, you got something here. You should pursue it." And so I wrote a few more stories and in that vein, and that became a novel. And Edward helped me with that, uh, and eventually I got published uh, with those three Martin Fender novels, and uh, so then I started writing documentaries and spec film scripts and other kinds of film related stuff when we lived in Los Angeles. And when I came back to Austin, I ended up writing nonfiction, and I, I got some things in the New York Times, uh, uh, including a piece about a an adaptation of a Charles Willeford novel from the 50s that was uh, produced in 1999. I think it's actually released in 2000, like somewhere around there, called The Woman Chaser. And uh, I wrote about that author and and his career of writing pulp fiction, but in a literary style, uh, and uh, that has come back in that there's a deluxe Blu-ray edition of that movie that's just come out from the Vinegar Syndrome people, and they do really elaborate, cool, first-class production of stuff. And so there's a booklet, nice booklet that comes with that, and I wrote the liner notes for that. And my notes are titled "The Return of the American Jerk," and that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where
Uh,
viewers get a copy?
you know,
Or do you know?
I don't know, but vinegar syndrome is a known thing for cinephiles. So I assume you can find out about it online and wherever you buy DVDs these days, which is where I don't know
Yeah, you're
this
right.
day and age.
You're
But
right. You're right.
so yeah, and there's probably going to be some kind of premiere party in LA in a month or so. So we're planning on going out for that and taking some bows.
That
I
one.
yeah. The uh
Well, we'll talk a little bit about your memoir, Never the
my-
Same Again. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Uh
How long did that take? How long did it take to
uh
prepare?
Lifetime.
Okay.
No, that was a that was a saga in that I got the idea when I was got my diagnosis for throat cancer because um I I had always I thought it was invincible, right? I was 43, so I was still pretty uh macho in my own way, I thought it was it, when they first told me you need to go get an MRI to find out what that is. And despite all the warning signs, I was like, when the doctor called with the results, I was still pretty cocky. I said, "Hey, so you got some good news for me?" I had a cigar in my mouth, and
Yeah,
she
yeah.
said, "Well, actually, it's not good news. You, you need surgery right away, and it's life-threatening." And blah, you know, there was no, there was no sunshine in that message, and so. Uh, it was such a gut punch. Uh, it uh, it's not just frightening. It's just like it stops you in your
Right.
tracks. Like,
Wake up call.
how do I deal with this?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, oh, I think we didn't have quite 2 weeks before the surgery, but I was walking around on a fall day, and I just got all the ideas because the fall colors were just bursting, and I saw a great blue heron. I heard it talking to me, and I got these metaphors in mind for how to deal with it. And I thought, hey, I'll write a book because in order to finish the book, I'll have to survive.
There you go.
That
There you
sounds
go.
well. It
Yeah.
worked, and so and I knew that I had this. 25 years had passed since my girlfriend had been murdered. Uh, at the very beginning of when my music career started happening, and that also stopped me in my track. Uh, I almost, that was also very life-threatening, and so, um, and fortunately, I had my Eddie Munoz and the band that were playing in at that time, and then I met uh, Lois, who is I'm still with Lois Ridgewine, and so that was a that was the end of one life and the beginning of another. So anyway, that murder was a dark thing, and there were a lot of unanswered questions about it because I couldn't deal with it at the time. So I thought, well, I can investigate that crime and put a shape to that story, and write about my survival and write about my music career and stuff. And so, you know, I I was pretty confident I had a good story, but God, it took forever to figure out how to do it and how to make it saleable. And I even at one point I hooked up with this really hotshot agent, uh, and he was very excited about the book, and we went out to dinner, and it was a big deal. And so I worked on a rewrite for him for a good while before I showed it to him, and I got a very short rejection letter. And it wasn't even from him; it was from one of his readers, and
Oh,
she was really mean. She said, when I first uh, got this manuscript, I read. I, I thought you were a lot more famous than this. You're not very famous, and we can't sell this anyway. It was quite a blow, and I went through several more drafts. Uh, I would say, uh, uh, worked on it off and on for 3 or 4 years because, and like, bear in mind that uh, I would get other writing projects, so I worked on my own project for a while, and then I get hired to do a documentary, and so I work on that. So uh, it's not as pathetic as, a guy working on the same thing forever and not getting anywhere. But I had literally put the thing in the garage, like, okay, that's it, forget about it. And then I found out that this publisher who had said he wanted to look at it, uh, I found out that he actually had forgotten or something. We'd gotten our wires crossed. They said, "Yeah, I want to see it." So I sent it to him, and right away he wrote back and said, "Yeah, let's do it." And
Really?
so I got it down, and we did it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Have you been cancer free since?
yeah. I have. I had a scare in early 2000. Some and so we had some more surgery, and but that was benign, and so, I have they hit me really hard with the surgery and and chemo and radiation. So, uh, you know, I, I have ongoing side effects that affect, they're part of my life, but really, I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, very fortunate. Yes. Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Well, talk about your painting. Had you always painted even earlier on, or did you
You
start
know,
late?
I was once like grew up, I just doodled, didn't really try to get better. I did some of our early gig posters, uh, which were like cartoony type drawings. But other than that, I didn't. And, now and then I mean, I do little pictures when I was writing marginalia, right? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And so, but then the marginalia grew into, I got into the Moleskine habit, write song lyrics and other stuff in a Moleskine, and then I'd do a sketch, and then I think what might have started it was uh, we're raising our son, and I got him some what's it called, Coptic brand. They're like uh, it's a brand of felt pens that they do anime with and stuff. Uh,
Oh, yeah. What's that
or
called?
is it manga? I get that
I
mixed
know
up.
what you're talking. I know what you're
Yeah.
talking.
And so he was not that interested in them, so I started using them, and I started coloring my doodles, and they got more elaborate. And then John D. Graham was selling bear caricatures and stuff, and artworks like that. And I thought, I can do that. And so I just started. I did a little, I did a show at Yard Dog, which is a gallery here, of my Moleskine pictures, is I probably shouldn't have, but because it was mostly pretty funky stuff, but it got me going, so I'm glad I did, uh, because I kept working on it and getting a little better, a little better, uh, and graduated to Canvas and panels and more professional mediums. And so uh, about 10 years ago, I got to the point where I was selling on Facebook and stuff. And that's I've done I've done some shows, but most of my sales come from people who see my work on Facebook or Instagram and contact me because a lot of them are fans or uh, But so it's been great. And I've gotten to know a lot of people in the community and who are real supportive. We have an art breakfast group that meets at 7:30 on Wednesdays. And like for me to get up, for a 7:30 meeting, pretty serious.
Right. Yeah, you've got to be dedicated to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're committed. You're
Yeah.
you're you're committed, or maybe you should be
Should
committed.
be. Yeah. But a lot, a lot of musicians end up becoming artists.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you're an artist. A musician is an artist. I can see. I can see, they're
Yeah,
both, you're artists and the writing as well. So
yeah,
I can see it all being encompassing, thing.
yeah.
Yeah. I like your, what inspired you to work on the Birds of Austin series?
You know, I think part of it is it goes back to when I was uh when I saw that great blue heron one, went on that walk, and it spoke to me, and I realized that I had a thing with birds, uh, and uh, and I had I don't know, just gotten into the birding thing with my study of environmental issues and stuff, and it, it just worked for me, you know.
Yeah.
So
There's a song, the band Crowded House?
yeah,
Crowded House, yeah. There's a song, A Private Universe.
uh-huh.
It's one of my favorites. And there's a line in that. It says, birds talk to me when I go down on my knees.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
And
that's
I thought,
good.
I
Yeah, I
thought,
never noticed that. Huh.
yeah, we're kind of coming to a close here, unless you can think of things that we might have omitted or that you'd like to mention
Uh,
or
I should tell you about this show that we're doing.
okay.
We,
Yes, yeah.
it's kind of fun. And since you mentioned the memoir, uh, right, uh, right when the memoir came out, uh, there was a Austin Music Awards show, and it was that's at the start of South by, so it was a big deal back then. Uh, and so we were asked to do a show at the a set of uh, all stars from the Raoul scene, and so we called it Class of '78, and it was Larry Seaman from Standing Waves, and myself, and Terry Lord, who was in a lot of bands. Uh, I'm sorry, I can't think of who right now, and oh, various people, Randy Franklin from the Waves, and John D played some guitar, and so did Eddie, played guitar on a song or two, and Biscuit from the Big Boys sang on a song or two, and so did Steve Mars from Terminal Mind. It was just a all-star show,
Yeah.
and so some of those guys are not with us anymore, but Larry and I are still around, and Billy Mansell, who played drums in a lot of bands back then. Uh, and so we're doing a set on Sterling Morrison's birthday at a venue called Tweedy's,
Yeah.
and it's near campus,
Yeah.
uh, and so the it's an opening of a photography thing. Uh, they David Fox, who was around back then and still goes out and shoots bands almost every night, uh, blew up a lot of his pictures, including a picture of Sterling out in front of Raoul's one night.
Yeah.
So that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be, yeah. Now Sterling, there's another one that moved to Austin. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And Todd, right, was the teacher, right? Wasn't?
yeah.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, 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 exactly. So lots of musicians have moved there. Wow, wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's something to, yeah. When will that be? When
It's next Thursday, the
next Thursday?
29th.
Okay.
20, let me make sure.
And
Yeah, no, Friday,
oh,
29th. Yeah.
Friday. Okay. And where did you say?
I'll send you the
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Do
It's
send.
Tweeties. It used to be
Okay,
Spider House
okay, Tweeties. Yeah,
on, I think that's 29th.
yeah. All right, all right. Well, I want to thank you, Jesse,
Hey,
and
Ray,
it's
enjoyed it. Yeah.
well. I always enjoy that. I think it's maybe my calling. I've finally found.
All right.
That it's enjoyable to me. I told the guy earlier. He said, "We like to talk," and I said, "Well, it's a win-win for me because I like to hear your stories and I like to share them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a win-win. So
All right. Cool.
no brainer, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jesse. Well, all the best to you,
Same
and
to you.
continued success, and keep in touch. Do send me that information, and then
Well,
also any updates, anything that you're doing, if you record things or any new publications and that kind of thing,
all
send
right.
send it my way,
Yeah,
info, and you have my info. And again, thanks.
you bet, man.
And all right,
All
and
right.
we'll say bye-bye for now, but not forever.
All
Okay.
right. Keep rocking.
All right, Jesse. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.